Hey, you're listening to the Empath Woman Awaken podcast episode number 11. Today we're going to talk all about boundaries, narcissism, and parenting. Just continuing on with our boundary series because it is so important that we learn and keep our boundaries. As moms, as businesswomen, as empaths, especially as empaths who pick us up so much of everybody else's energies. We really truly do need to tune in to what is our own energies and what is that of other people that we don't necessarily want to carry around. So stay tuned. If you're not subscribed already, be sure that you subscribe here on iTunes. And then also you may want to go on over to my website, missjenlewis.com, where you can also subscribe to our weekly newsletter where I send out reminders that the podcast has launched, and then also just words of encouragement and support to help you thrive and unlock your limitless potential as an empath and healer. So stay tuned. Welcome to the Empath Woman Awaken, the podcast that helps you uncover and realize your greatest potential. I'm your host and creator, Jennifer Lewis. After losing 82 pounds, I realized my greatest potential. Once insecure, afraid, and depressed, I now confidently embody my gifts, who I am, and what I feel called to do. I've built an international coaching practice and founded a federally recognized 501c3 nonprofit. I'm here to help you stop hiding and embody your greatest gifts so you too can unlock your greatest potential and achieve whatever it is you set your mind to achieve. This is Empath Woman Awaken. Last week, I released a podcast with my friend Whitney about setting boundaries for deeper spiritual connection. And I have heard so many amazing things from y'all. So we are going to just build off of that today. So setting boundaries, what does that mean to you? Boundaries is really comparable to a fence line. Where does your neighbor's yard end and where does yours begin? And so if you can think about boundaries in this way, in relationships, where does your responsibility for how other people feel end? And where does your responsibility about how you feel begin? And so this is going to be an interesting concept, maybe one that you haven't heard before, maybe one that you have heard before. But I've really just been diving super deep into this because as a sensitive, as an empath, as somebody who picks up on how other people are feeling, I have to be very aware of how sensitive I am to these other people. And so I've got to really be able to notice when I'm feeling how I am actually truly feeling or how I might be picking up somebody else's energy. And how do I decipher that? And how in relationships do we stop taking responsibility for how other people feel? I mean, that's really what it comes down to when it comes to boundaries and relationships. And there's a catchphrase going around right now with narcissism. And while I believe that, yes, there are true narcissists, we all have narcissistic behaviors within ourselves. And so I think we have to be careful when we go and start labeling and classifying people, because we all have the ability to be that, especially as an empath, because what a narcissist is somebody who carries insecurities, deep-rooted shame, deep-rooted stories, and instead of managing it, so the way we became empaths are usually because we have some kind of story, some kind of trauma, and in order to survive that trauma, we really had to get in tune with our senses and experience life with full sensing abilities. So our sight is enhanced, our hearing is enhanced, our smell is enhanced, our intuition is enhanced. Being able to know things is enhanced because of some trauma that we've experienced. We have to be able to survive. And how do we do that? We do that by being heightened in our abilities to sense things, kind of like a prey animal in the wild. They have to be able to sense things and get out of that danger in a hurry. And so the narcissistic person, we're going to call them a narcissistic person. We're not actually going to call them a narcissist because I really, truly do not like labels, because a label implies that somebody cannot change. And while some may not, I think we have to be careful when we go around and diagnose and label and say that somebody is one way or another, because you wouldn't want that done to you because it seems so permanent. And so I'd like to be careful in the way that we use these terms. So back to what a narcissist is. So the narcissist has these traumas. The narcissist has this deep-rooted shame and insecurities. And rather than take on the, I want to help people, they have taken on the, well, my ego is going to be so inflated, I think of nobody else but myself. And so understanding that, and when we are experiencing life, oftentimes as empaths, we go outside looking for the way we want to feel. We look for relationships. We look for food in my weight loss clients. We look for the $3,000 purse, if that's the circle we run in, and how we want to feel. We look for the car we drive. If we are mothers, if we are parents, we are looking for our children to help us feel the way that we want to feel if we haven't carefully set boundaries. So often, if we're not careful, you can see our children are a reflection of us. If we're not careful, we take on this idea that our children have to behave a certain way because that is a reflection of us. And so coming from a highly religious background where very dogmatic, very opinionated, very man-made regulations and rules, and your children had to be a certain way. Well, what happens when our children aren't that way? What do? Do we end up taking on this idea that, well, if they're not perfect, if they're not worthy, how is that going to make me look? And so maybe when they get in the car, we chew into them and give them a run for their money because they didn't behave the way that they were supposed to. And really getting into the space of understanding, where are we doing this in our lives? So an example of this is my daughter was in super competitive gymnastics. She literally took home 5 medals every single meet this last year. And there's only 4 events in a gymnastics competition. You have beam, you have vault, you have floor, and you have bars. And then you get a score for all around, and that's where she would get that 5th medal. So in order to get a medal, you have to have been in the top 10 usually to get a medal in that competition. This is not like there were only 10 people competing. This is hundreds of athletes competing at these events. So she was good. She was applying herself and doing such an amazing job, showing up, doing the best that she could, keeping that focused. And these are not easy tasks. I mean, they're flying through the air off a beam that is so high up in the air. I mean, it's very scary stuff. And so she'd have to overcome her fear and overcome the feeling of having to be perfect. Because if you're in that mindset of having to be perfect, what ends up happening is you falter because you're so focused on being perfect, and there is no such thing. But anyway, so going forward, so she got 5 medals every single competition, and we were so proud of her. But in her coach's eyes, it wasn't enough. In fact, she never even got acknowledged unless she was first place. And so I want you to see that in our own experience in life, that oftentimes we model what we've been taught if we don't set boundaries in what is acceptable in our own lives and set boundaries in our own behavior towards the people that we love or that we have influence over or for in our lives. So often, if you're a business leader and you have a team of people, how are you treating them? Are you treating them as somebody who is a reflection of you? And so then you micromanage or you get upset because they're not doing the things the way you would have them done. And I speak from total experience because I am a type A person. I am a Leo. I like to be right. I like to be in charge. And I have a set idea of how I like things done. So being a business owner, oftentimes it's been hard for me to release control and trust that the people that I hire are gonna do the things the way that I would have them done. And here's the thing, they're not. They're not gonna do it the way that I would do it. But are they gonna do it to their expertise? Absolutely. Or I wouldn't have hired them. And so what do I get to do is I get to focus on the strengths of myself and the strengths of my team. And I want you to be thinking about this in your own life and how maybe there aren't boundaries or those boundaries have been blurred in how we expect others to help us feel. So our children as a mother has been one of those things that continually show up in my life because I've got 4, okay? I've got 4 babies. Well, they're not babies anymore, but I've got 4 children. Each and every one of them are so very different. I had to learn to recognize their strengths and appreciate their differences. They are not going to be like me. And I cannot teach them or parent them the way that I would like to be parented or taught. In the same way, I actually homeschool my children. In the same way, in teaching them, I cannot teach them all 4 the same. Well, actually 3 now, because one is grown and she's a mama of her own. She's 24, started her life, and has a beautiful, perfect baby, my grandbaby. But I really had to learn. I had to spend a lot of time just learning who my children were so that I knew how to best support them. I had to let go of any agendas that I had and how they should behave or who they should be. And I want you to get curious about that, because what agendas do we have for them? And what responsibilities are we putting on them for ourselves? So if I would, like the coaches, if I would put this idea or this stock into, well, Ashlyn has to come home with number 1, that's I'm in competition with everybody else and I've got to be the best. I've got to be perfect. I've got to be this. Then all of a sudden it becomes this competition, and it's not about the child doing the best that she can and celebrating her wins and willingness to fail. That's another thing, and that's a whole nother topic. But being willing to fail in order to get better. And so often we're paralyzed by this idea that we have to be perfect. So we don't even do something because we're afraid we're not going to be perfect at it. And here's the thing, we're not going to be perfect at it. We're going to make so many mistakes in getting there. We're going to make mistakes as parents. We're going to make mistakes as partners. We're going to make mistakes as business owners. We're going to make mistakes as being leaders in our corporate jobs. Mistakes are part of life, and perfection is part of being a human being. And so how do we put those expectations on our children that they have to be perfect at everything? And I would recommend, and I do suggest, is that you sit with this idea because it was passed along to you. This is where we get our belief system. This is why it is so important to visit these stories and get in tune with what your own inner story is. If you had a parent or a loved one that expected you to be perfect, bring home straight A's, do everything right every single time, or they would get angry and cold in a way and withdraw what felt like withdrawing love, or they would be explosive and yell and angry. So you learned, right? As children, we are master manipulators. I want you guys to think about this. When you're a baby, what do? You're hungry, you cry. When you got a poopy diaper, what happens? You want to get changed, what do? You cry. You grow up, you're in the store. When you think about this, right? You guys see it now. You go to the store and you see some child, a younger toddler, throwing a fit because he wants a toy. He gets the toy, he's going to learn, hey, I can throw fits to get what I want. And in the same way, as children, we learned, if I do X behavior, I'm going to get the attention from my parents. I'm going to get the love that I maybe don't feel like I'm getting from my parents. So straight A's, I'm going to get recognized. I'm going to get recognized as that child that's going to get love, because maybe we had just a controlling, rigid upbringing that you had to be a certain way in order to get love. We take on this responsibility that it's up to us as children to help our parents feel a certain way. And I want you to get curious about that and maybe set out a little bit of a warning in the way that we raise our children. It is not our responsibility. It is not their responsibility to make you happy. It is not their responsibility to do everything right to make you happy. Like, can you do everything right? No, absolutely not. So why would we put this expectation on our children? And this is the thing, you guys, like, this was a hard lesson to learn. And I feel like I have to apologize to my oldest daughter like 50 times over, because I didn't know that this is what I was doing and this is the expectation. And so I didn't hold those boundaries within myself or for her. And so now I tell my children, I tell them straight out, you are not responsible for my happiness. If I'm at a line and I'm upset and I yell, that's on me. That is my behavior. And there is nothing that you need to do differently to help me not yell, because that is not your responsibility. That is my responsibility to work on me to have better communication abilities. Okay. So you guys, I hope that you're seeing this and what that looks like. And it shows up in parenting. It shows up in our relationships. It shows up in work or any atmosphere where we have some kind of influence and leadership. Because if we get this idea that it's up to our team or up to our children to show up to make us look better, we got it wrong. We got it so wrong, and it's time to make a change. And I really, truly ask you to let go of the idea of right and wrong, black or white, because if you have this idea that it's wrong, you're going to have a blind side to it. It's going to be really hard for you to see it because we don't want to be wrong. So I just want you to get curious and just recognize it maybe the next time that it comes up. Because the thing is, we can be such amazing parents when we let go of this idea that it's up to our children to make us look good. Okay? I mean, that's really what it just boils down to. is we want to have this perfect appearance that everything is A-okay and we're perfect. There's nothing wrong. Our life is so put together. And you guys, like, that seriously is a mask, because there is no such thing. Okay, if you look over here in my studio, I've got two little piggy kennels because they come in at night. This is where my two little piggies sleep at night. So does it give the perception that I'm perfect? Maybe my studio is set up. I've got the speaker. I've got the podcast. Yes, I go after what I want, but my life is so far from perfect. And I want you guys to really get this understanding that we create these ideals of what we think other people are, and then we try to keep up with that ideal. And the thing is, other people are not perfect. And especially the people that you are following as influencers and leaders and living the life that you may want to get to, understand that they are far from perfect. And so don't put yourself in a place of comparing, because then you're really going to set yourself up for serious failure and to be let down when you figure out that those people aren't what you expected, because we put these ideas and these ideals into play in the way we think things are. This is the key. The way we think things are. We create the meanings of a situation. It is us that does that. It's our belief system. It's our upbringing. It's our paradigm that creates the experience that we have based on how we think. So going back to raising children and narcissistic behaviors, when we're in a position of control in our children, we can easily take on a narcissistic behavior and thinking, hey, they've got to be this because they're an example of me. And I don't know about you, but I do not want my children to think in any way they are responsible for me. I'm responsible for me. If I don't like something about myself, I got to change it. I can't expect them, who are going through all their hormonal changes and trying to figure out life themselves, to be perfect. Now, let's make sure that we understand this. Like, of course, they need a little brainwashing. Okay, of course, I'm going to teach them as much as I can about what it means to live a healthy, happy, purposeful life of service, of influence, and giving back and helping other people. Of course, I'm going to teach them those things, but I'm not going to expect them to do it in a way that I would do it. They are their own spirit bodies here having a human experience where they are to learn who they are, to understand their value and their worth. But if we are teaching them, hey, you only get your worth and your value and recognized by me when you make me feel good, like, what are we really setting them up for? We're setting them up for looking outside of themselves to feel the way they want to feel. And if you've been following me, you know this, that you cannot feel the way you want to feel or experience life the way you want to experience life outside of yourself. It starts with you feeling the way you want to feel inside right now. With my weight loss clients, they think, oh, well, if I lose this 40 pounds, okay, well, I thought, hey, if I lose 80 pounds, 70 pounds, I'm going to feel confident. I'm going to feel like my husband isn't going to leave me. I'm going to feel like I can go out and teach people. It didn't come from the weight loss. It came from my sense of self, my sense of value, and my sense of worth that improved those areas. It wasn't the weight loss. The weight loss was a benefit. Yes, I'm healthier. I can keep up with my kids. I like the way that I feel. Of course, my libido is higher. Like, I have all of these positive things, but the confidence does not come from the size that you are. Your value does not come from your children. Your recognition doesn't need to come from anybody else. Your permission to do the things you want to do does not come from your parents, from your significant other, or your children. It comes from you holding that space for yourself and understanding, hey, if I'm the mom I need to be, what does that look like? So many times I thought I either had to be a mom or be successful in business, because by being successful the way I wanted to be, the story that I had stored was that I wouldn't be a good mom. That if I got so busy with success, I wouldn't be available to my children. Mentally, emotionally, physically, I wouldn't be there. That was the story that I had. When in fact, it's the total opposite. Because when I am showing up for me, when I am successful, it lights me up. I have this vibrancy because I'm doing what I love. And I'm not doing it for any other reason than this is what I am called to do. This is my capacity to serve. This is what I love. And when I am in that space, I'm recharged. I feel amazing. And so when I'm done doing that, and because I've set boundaries and I know, okay, you cannot work 15-hour days. And you cannot do everything yourself. You've got to hire a team. You've got to be supported by people that have the vision that you've taught them. That's my responsibility, to teach them, to show up fully in my capacity, in my heart of service. That is my responsibility. Because when I'm in that space, I am a better mother. I am a better partner. I show up fully. I am not over here thinking about what I should be doing, what I'm not doing, what I want to be doing. I am fully present with my children. I am fully present to understand what's the underlying issue with them. What's going on with my daughter? She wants to quit gymnastics because of this coach. Well, our kids can't quit being our kids. They are going to rebel. They are going to do things to get what they need from you. So why not center in instead and work on you, showing up for you and fixing these parts of us so that we can then pass that on to our children. And it is about fixing those parts of us. It is becoming mindful of those. It is about doing better. For me, I am a much better parent when I do. And it's not because I want them to be a certain way, but I don't want them to carry the same crap that I carry, And the thing is, like, it's generational. Of course, I adore my parents. They did the best that they could. And in fact, they improved their situation. And then it's the same way for us. We're never going to be perfect, but we can take it one step further and improving who we are in setting those boundaries of what we're actually responsible for and what we're not. And this is something that boundaries are about what you can control in yourself and what your children can control in themselves. So let's kind of look at that. What happens when you have a rebellious teen? I gave my parents a run for their money. Bless their hearts. Believe me, I have had to apologize many times over because I did give them a run for the money. What if you have that rebellious teen that, like me, was like, hey, if you don't let me go, I'm going to sneak out and I'm going to go anyway. That was my personality as a stink, right? So, and my parents thought, well, I can't let her go. I need to keep her safe. And if I let her go, she's not safe. And so I need to make sure she can't go. And so my teenage brain didn't recognize where healthy situations were and where they were not. So do we just allow our kids to do whatever they want whenever they want? Absolutely not. We are adults. We see when something is unhealthy. We see when there's potential danger in those situations. So we still guide, we still set boundaries for them that obviously they're not mature enough to set quite yet. So of course we sit there and we say, okay, you can go, but you have to be home by this time. Or you can go, but these people need to be with you in order to go. And so we do set boundaries, and that we say, okay, here is what you can do. And if you don't do this, here are the consequences. And this is what I tell my children. There are consequences for everything we do. Everything. It doesn't matter what you do. Spiritual law says there are consequences, either good and feel good kind of consequences, or the kind that are going to teach you something. Okay. And so we do have consequences. It is just a spiritual fact that if you get off your path, something is going to happen to bring you back on. And in the same way as raising children, we can put those boundaries on that, hey, when you do things this way and have an open conversation with them, this is what gets to happen for you. We want you to learn. We want you to love education and knowledge, not because you need me to feel good about your straight A's. And this is probably going to maybe surprise some of you. I do not grade my children, and because I don't feel like I need to. They are not learning based on some grade they get. And I honestly don't care how they do on test scores, because my children are incredibly intelligent in the areas that they're meant to be gifted in. Why would I then fail them in other areas that is not their strength? Of course, I'm going to teach them, but I'm not going to tell them, hey, you failed at this. No, I'm not going to do that to them. We are going to spend time in discussion and communication and understanding. And hey, what's your interest? Let's go after that. Let's figure that out. What do you want to learn about that? And I get them excited about it. And I ask them, what do you want to do with your life? Where do you see yourself? What excites you? Not because you think somebody else wants you to do that, but what do you want? And because I've been so aware of my children, and here's what I want you to know too, if you haven't been in this space, it doesn't mean you can't be. If you've been somebody who had to work full time and haven't been able to homeschool, or haven't been able to be there long hours a day, it does not mean that you can't start now and being fully present in the time that you do have with them. Because that is key, is being fully present in that time and space with them. And so if that means that you have to hire somebody else to do something that you don't want to do, or that you feel like you have to do, but is taking time away from your child or children, then you figure out a way to do that. And the beautiful thing about us and our brains and our minds and our intuition, we are like this amazing machine, this amazing computer that figures it out when we settle in, slow down, and listen. But we're in this place of reactive state. We're always trying to catch up. We're always trying to do the next best thing. We're always trying to make that money because we're in debt. And okay, but let's go back to, why are we in debt? Because we're spending too much money. So maybe you don't need to make more. Maybe you need to stop spending money. Because where is your focus? Is your focus on spending money because you want to impress other people? Is your focus on spending money because you want to feel a certain way? Get really in touch with yourself and your actions and why you're doing the things that you do, and be mindful and present. So then you can impact these relationships that are so important. So with our children, being present, recognizing them for what they are, which is an amazing gift, these spirit bodies that they've chosen us to be their parents. So obviously they have a contract to learn from us. But maybe part of this contract is showing up for you, understanding your value and your worth that doesn't come from the bag you carry, the car you drive, the business that you have, the perfect children that you have, the body that you think you want. Your value and your worth does not come from any of that. Your job is to recognize you've had it all along and to hold that space in your relationships with your children, right? Some of us say yes to our kids all the time. I was so guilty of this. Oh my God. All right, so you guys know I do this thing. I got to do a confession. Because the thing is, we go through hard times so we can learn. Because the best lessons I've ever learned in my life have been the hard ones. Those are the ones I pay attention to. If it's easy, I don't pay attention to it, right? So when my oldest daughter was in high school, I had 3 small children. And I thought I had to say yes to her in order to make her happy. And so I would say yes, but I was so exhausted and spent and had nothing left to give. A, because I was saying yes to so many things. B, because I wasn't taking care of myself. And C, because I had some depression and emotional stuff going on and wasn't showing up for me. I was giving. And then I was completely drained and wiped out. So what did I do? I said yes, and then I took it out on her for saying yes. It's not her responsibility to stop asking me. It is my responsibility to say no and set boundaries. And that's what I really want you guys to gather from this. And please understand, I am not the world's best parent. I still make mistakes. I still wish that I did things better, but I am doing better. And I'd love to believe that I have some pretty amazing children because of it, because I've showed up for myself, because I held space for me and said, no, I am going to do this. No, we're not going to spend the money on this because I'm going to invest in this over here because this makes me better, which is going to help me be a better parent and help you live a better future. And this is the key. This is the key of moving away from this space of martyr archetype and what we may have learned, whether it be in church, from our families, moving into this space of, I don't have to give everything I have until I can't give anymore, until my body shuts down, until my bank account suffers, until my relationships suffer. Like, you don't have to do that to be loved and valued. You get to show up for you right now where you are in this space. And your only job is to recognize your value and worth so you can pass it on to your children. Like, if I just bottom lined it, like, that's it. You are to learn this lesson to heal the feminine wounds of our matriarchs in our family, because they were wounded. They do carry deep traumas. They passed those beliefs on because it's what they knew. They did better, but now it's your job to continue what they've created, what they've started, what they want for you. And that is to show up completely as yourself in who you are, not asking for permission from anybody else. You do not need anybody else to tell you it's okay. If you do, here it is. It's okay. Show up for yourself. I promise you. When you do, in the full space of who you are, you get the love because you're being you and you're loved for you. If you're so often trying to be somebody else, you're never going to feel loved because you're not being you. You're being loved for the persona that you're putting out there. And then that doesn't feel good because you're not being you, right? Do we want to teach our children to do that? I don't. My boy is 6 foot tall, handsome young man. I'm like, oh my gosh, who are you turning into? Where did my little boy go? Anyway, he is this computer brain. Like, you ask him anything, he knows anything about everything and anything. I'm like, how do you know all of this? And it's just who he is. So you know what it is as my job as his mother? To let him feel confident in that. To teach him that that is a strength, no matter what anybody else says. No matter if you get teased for being a nerd or a geek or whatever, right? Not being the cool kid that fits in with everybody. My job is to teach him to hold that space for himself in who he is. That he doesn't have to become somebody else to make somebody else happy. And it starts first with me showing up with my own knowing that I don't got to be anybody else to make anybody happy, right? I can be that little rebellious poop that I was, right? I get to be that person that's like, you know what? No, I don't like that. I don't want to do that. And setting those boundaries in that being okay if I don't want to do something. No, I don't want to do the dishes. You can do the dishes if you want them done so bad, right? I mean, it sounds awful at times, but at the same time, yes, we got to do things sometimes we don't want to do because we have to really tune into what do we really want. So, no, I don't have to do the dishes, but if I like a clean kitchen, either A, I got to teach my children to clean it, or B, I got to clean it, or C, I get somebody who takes care of it for me. Okay. Those are my options. If I want a clean kitchen. Now, if I don't care, if my kitchen is clean, then I don't have to do it. But what I don't get to do is be upset that it is the way that it is if I haven't set boundaries to create what I want to experience. So there's a lot of information here today, friends. And I hope that you feel empowered in the fact that it's okay if you haven't done it right. Because really, what is right? That's a question you got to ask yourself. And who decides what's right anyway? We can go down to like this whole philosophical idea that things need to be a certain way, but I can even challenge that because here's the thing. Who gave us the idea that that's how it had to be? That's your paradigm. That's your deep-rooted stories that have been influenced by society, advertisers, churches. So be careful where your stories are coming from and visit them. Decide, is that the story you want to keep? Because the beautiful thing is you're an adult. You get to create the story you want. You get to create the future that you want. That my goal, my vision for you is that it is not based on somebody else. It is not based on your upbringing or your church or anything else. It is based on that spiritual guidance that's coming from within you, asking you to be something else. That is calling you back home to remembering who you are and what you are being asked to do. Because that is key. You are here for a purpose. That righteous desire and what you want to be doing is your calling, is part of your journey back to wholeness. And learning to set boundaries so that you can get there is part of this journey. And understanding that other people are not responsible for how you feel. How you feel is your responsibility. My husband makes me crazy at times. He's an amazing man, but he makes me crazy at times. He's not responsible to be perfect so that I'm happy. My job is to learn while I'm here how to control my emotions, how to control my feelings, how to create a life that I want to lead without expectation on everybody around me doing exactly what I want them to do. It's not going to happen. And I'm not going to revert back to being a child getting what I want, even though I have before. Okay? Hear me. I've done it before. That's why I can talk about it. Because I know that I don't have to be perfect to share what I've learned. And if you're an empath and you're a healer and you've got some kind of gift that you're meant to be sharing and you're not because you think you're not perfect, let me tell you and help you remember there is no such thing as perfection, my friends. Get it out of your mind that, oh, if only I had it all figured out. If only I did this, then I could. If only my weight loss clients, if only I lost 40 pounds, then maybe my husband would give me the attention. I'm curious about that because boundaries are not in place. You can lose those 40 pounds because you want to, because you want to feel the way you want to feel, but you can feel that way without losing the weight. And I'd like to even encourage that if he's not giving you the attention that you want, A, is he giving you attention and you're just not saying it? Or B, is he not a nice man? Then maybe you got to set boundaries around that and show up for yourself. Maybe you haven't showed up for yourself and asked for what you want. That's the other thing I'm like so set on teaching my children. Ask for what you want. Do not be afraid to ask for what you want. Somebody might say no. I may say no to them. No. But they can't be afraid of that. They can't be afraid of hearing no. And when they get told no, they don't get to throw a fit. They don't get to go pout. They don't get to go scream because it isn't going to work, right? So they're learning right now to be responsible for their behavior. And yes, you can ask for what you want, but you may not get it, and that's okay. You don't throw a fit because you don't. Because what they are learning now carries on into adulthood. And we get to parent the way that we want to parent. And in this inner child work that I do with my clients, one of the things that we do is we journey back into that childhood experience that the trauma happened or the shame or the story was created. We then get to re-parent that part of us. So when my little child that says, I'm so scared, I feel very vulnerable, I can say, hey, I got this. I'm the adult. You don't have to be afraid. When she shows up, I'm 100% present with her. She's not just running my show because she's afraid, because she did have bad things happen to her. But that's why it's so important to do that inner work so that you can recognize it. Otherwise, she's running the show for 40 years of my life. And I had no idea. I mean, I knew that I had that experience, but I didn't know how it was shaping my experience today. And that's the important part that I want you to recognize, is that when you work and you discover these things and you do these inner child workings and you figure this out, like, you get to then reparent that child. You then get to also rewrite your story. It's the mindfulness. It's the being empowered. It's the setting boundaries that we experience life at its greatest. And I'd love to do that work with you. I would love to do that work with you. And I encourage you, go to my website. Let's work together. Get on my email newsletter if you're not already on there. And every week I send something out to really empower you as an empath, because you have trauma, you have stories that are driving everything you do. If you don't have the amount of money that you want, if you don't have the career or the business, If your children are acting out, or you have financial stuff going on, or the partners that you're attracting are awful, then there's a story. And energetically, you're doing your best, but that story creates the stagnant energy that keeps you stuck. And so I encourage you, get in touch with me. It's missjenlewis.com. You'll find where you can get on the Woman Awakened tribe, and you're going to get these newsletters. If you're ready and you just want a coaching session, you can find the link for that. But I encourage you, do not just listen. Be an active participant in your life. Choose how you want to feel. Do not ask people for permission to feel it. It is not their job to say, yeah, sure, you can feel that way, honey. No. They may not like it. If you're in a partnership, my husband, there's been money I've invested in my schooling, in my coaching, in my well-being, and he did not like it. And he behaved inappropriate, but that's not my responsibility. I've got to show up for me. I love him. I respect him. I value him. But when I know something is on my heart and soul that I have to do, I've got to know that that's my calling and something I have to do. And I'm going to set boundaries for myself, that the way that he copes and the way that he does things is not my responsibility. I have to do what is right for me. And because I've invested that, I'm the mother I am today. I have the business that I have today. I am the wife that I am. And so I just want you to help you understand that creating boundaries, showing up in a way that you are mindful and intentional about what you want to create, is going to give you the most authentic life. It is going to change your family's history and future for your children. And for those of you that don't have children, you have people of influence. You have little ones of influence somewhere, whether it's your nieces and nephews, whether it's students that you teach, whether it's other clients that you have that have children, whether it's future children that you may have. One way or another, you are listening to this podcast, you are hearing this message because it's meant for you to hear, to influence you, to help you, to support you. And it might make those around you uncomfortable because they don't know how to react to it. It's harder before it gets easier. That I promise you. And if you haven't listened to a podcast I did back a little while ago, it was about intentional spaces. Visually, I want you to think about this. When you clean out a cupboard, what has to happen first? You have to take everything out so you can see it. You got to see what's going on in there. You got to see, hey, do I want to keep this? Do I want to donate it? Do I want to throw it away? What do I want to do? But you have to take it all out first. And it gets messier before it gets cleaner, right? So when we're going through this work, understand, know from the beginning, A, you're strong enough to handle it, or you would not be here. B, it is part of your purpose, part of your calling to learn. And this is part of learning. And it kind of sucks at times. It's hard sometimes. But remember, your most valuable lessons are usually not the easiest ones you learn. And the more work you have to do, sometimes the harder it is. And it's like layers, all right? It's like line upon line, peeling back the onion. There's just one more layer, one more layer, one more layer. I don't think we ever are meant to get to where we think we ought to be, because we get there and we're going to want something else because we're achievers. We're here to unlock our limitless potential. And how do we do that? We grow, we learn, we grow, we learn, we grow, we learn. So we're always going to be growing. We're always going to be learning. We're always going to be achieving. and striving, but we can enjoy the process rather than expecting, hey, this is when I reach this, I'm going to feel this. With my weight loss clients, like, you can enjoy the journey and who you're becoming and choosing those foods that support your highest being and vibrancy and your best moods and your spiritual awakening. You get to enjoy that process. You don't have to go, well, when I get here, I'm going to feel that way. No, that's not how it works. You got to feel it now to attract what you need to get there. So, friends, I love you. You got this. You would not be hearing this if you were not meant to understand it. And if you are not on my list, man, you're missing out. Every week, it's not salesy, not even trying to sell anything. All my needs are provided for. I just show up and I do my part. And that's what I want you guys to do. Show up, do your part. Do not expect anybody else to do it for you. That is setting boundaries. And teach your children the same thing. They don't have to be what everybody wants them to be. They don't have to be likable. And they don't have to go the opposite way either. So, my friends, that's what I got. Hope you have an amazing day. I am leaving this week to go see my beautiful, perfect, blue-eyed angel light worker baby. Oh, I cannot wait. I cannot wait to see that sweet, sweet face. So you guys got this. Super, super proud of you. I know that you are showing up just the way you're meant to be showing up, or you would not be listening to this podcast right now. Let me know how you're feeling. Tune in, screenshot, share on your Instagram. Let me know your aha moment. Let me know what empowered you in this podcast. Let me know what you want to know more about. Let's chat. Let's do this. That's what I'm here for. All right, guys. We will talk next week. Have a beautiful, blessed, fully embodied, empowered, feminine, empath, amazing, gifted day. We will see you next time.
Hey there again, friend. I hope that you enjoyed today's episode of Empath Woman Awakened. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear your aha moments and what really encouraged you to stop hiding and really impacted your life or that of your child's, and to where you felt more empowered to embody these gifts and truly share what's on your heart and what's on your mind, and to live just an authentic, amazing life, reaching your greatest potential. If you could leave that review over in iTunes, that would be amazing. And I also want to remind you that over on my website, missjenlewis.com/empath, I have a very special gift for you. It is a top 10 checklist. It's the top strategies that I use on myself, on my clients, and even on my children to really help them thrive in what sometimes feels like an overwhelming world, right? We're these highly sensitive beings. Our little children are these highly sensitive beings. We have big goals. We have big dreams. And maybe we feel stuck, or we just feel restricted by these negative energies that hold us back. And if you go over there and download that, and it's free, there's no upsell or none of that crazy stuff. It's just going to be a way to really just give you a checklist and how you can live your most amazing life using these gifts and unlocking your greatest potential to show up for your highest good. So go on over there, missjenlewis.com/empath. And until next time, y'all have an amazing day.